What's happening, guys? Saf-T-Liner C2 here. Yeah. How are you? Hope you're doing good. I'm a little tired of myself. I had a really long day yesterday. I bet you can't guess what I'm going to tell you about. So, had to do one of those ceremonies that I do. I had to go out and do one of those yesterday at 8 o'clock at night, but they wanted us up there 8 o'clock in the morning. Now this place is an hour away, and I said I would give someone a ride up there, so I leave my house around 6:50 in the morning, and I head over to pick up my friend, get him and head up there. And at that point, we're pretty much just kind of walking around waiting for me to find the one person that I needed to talk to. I promised I would provide some guys to do some service, fill up some water jugs or, clean up trash. Whatever they needed us to do, I offered that I would. What the? I didn't know that you could do that. But I offered to provide some guys to do that. So I'm walking around looking for this guy, and I cannot find him. Mind you, this place that we were at, it's not very big, and I know this place like it's the back of my hand. I've been there so many times, and it's, small enough that I know where every little thing in there is. But total, there were about probably almost 500 people there, and trying to find one person there can be a little tricky, as you might be able to imagine. So I'm walking around, and I still cannot find this guy, but I knew that he needed us there early so that we could get a couple things done. And eventually I hear someone call out my name, and he's like, "Cameron!" And I'm just like, oh gosh, here we go. And the day begins, And, so he's like, okay, I need you to fill up some water jugs, blah, 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 blah. So I gather up some guys, and we go fill up some water jugs, and, so now what this specific camp is it's trying to get the 5th graders ready for Boy Scouts and their, whenever they cross over. It's basically showing them what they have to look forward to. So the first half of the day they would go to some activities, and then the second half we would put on like a little fair, just like a it's not really a fair. That's what they called it. I'm trying to come up with a better word. It's kind of like, like a meet and greet. I guess that's better with each individual unit. So these morning activities, didn't require a whole lot of stuff. So he said he would talk to me if he needed anything else. He'd give me a call or something. So I'm just walking around looking for something to do. And during these morning activities, when the boys were off, their parents were in getting kind of a brief down of how it's different, and really, the game's crashed. Okay, well, here we go. Let's see if that's just a network thing or if I got kicked or what. There we go. Come on. There we go. Come on. A little bit faster would be nice, but, take your time. Stopped working again, really? We're gonna have to go into single player then, because this doesn't want to work. You know what? Let's check something out, because I was just thinking of doing this, but I don't think I've done it with this specific bus. Let's see. So I think we're gonna go single player. Oh dang, we have done it in that bus. Let's go ahead and just switch over to another bus that we have not taken. up. First we need to make this complete full screen. Here we go. And let's go Mount Shell. What have we not brought up here? So let's see. I'm going to go to my videos real quick. We have the O1 International TCI, one of TG's, the HDX, both HDXs, 2690, another TG. Let's see, what is that one? That's one of GCPS's. Let's see, what are we going to bring up here? You know what? Let's drive this. This ought to be good. This ought to be interesting. Let me turn up the volume a little bit, because this one is so much quieter. Let's see. Well, that is not as quiet as I remember it being, and I guarantee we're not going to be able to get up right here. Yeah. And that was partially my fault also. But, you know, whatever. Okay. So let's see. Where was I? So yeah, they were getting a brief down by some, you know, leaders, some not experienced people. And I happened to know said experienced people, and I was walking past them, or past their little, you know, briefing, and to go check on one of the water jugs to, you know, see if they need any water in it. And over walks one of said experienced leaders. She comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, you doing anything?" No, I was just gonna go check the water jug, see if it's all good. She's like, "Do you mind giving like a 5-minute talk on, you know, why you love scouting and, you know, what it's meant to you and your experiences and blah, 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 blah." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay, sure. Okay, yeah, thanks. Just come back in 20 minutes or so." So, thing is, I used to do these talks, yeah, a good amount of the time, but it's been like 2 years since I've done one. So they're expecting me to basically, you know, praise it, but, you know, in reality, I'm just kind of gonna pull something out of my rear end, I guess. But so I'm walking over to fill these water jugs up, and I'm trying to think of like what I used to say, but I could not think of anything. Nothing was coming to mind. So about 20 minutes later, I go back over there, and she's like, "Okay," she stopped the other person talking, and she's like, "Okay, well, we actually have another person. This is Cameron. He's been through the entire program, and he knows what he's talking about." And I go up there, and I introduce myself, and I give my positions, and then I'm just like, oh God, where do I go with this? I have no clue what to do now. And it's not that I'm nervous or anything. I was not at all. It's just like, I haven't done one of these in forever, so it's like, she was like, "Okay, so why do you love scouting?" and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, yeah, I guess it, you know, did this and that. I'm just kind of making stuff up as I go. But I guess it went fairly well. And of course, So I sit back down after that and, just sit there for a couple minutes. Just, doing whatever. And I go head off to go fill up some more water jugs. And I get over there, and this kid stops me, and he's like, sir, do you have a parking pass? And I'm like, I look at him just like, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy? I'm walking. And he just looks at me, and he's like, where's your parking pass? And I'm just like, kid, get out of my way, just let me fill up my water jug. And he goes on for like 3 minutes about like, oh, you need your parking pass. And I'm just like, I don't know what the heck you're telling me. And I go over there, I fill up the water jug, I just like move him out of the way. And I start walking out, and he's like, I'm gonna have to write you an offense for obstruction of justice or something like that. Some stupid reason. And I'm like, okay. And he has this little notebook that he wrote down all these tickets for. All these, and he handed me one. And I'm just like, are you really this bored to be doing that? And he's like, yeah, it's keeping me entertained so far, seeing how mad I can get people. And I'm just like, well, kid, it's working. And then he hands me a little piece of paper that says parking pass on it. And I'm just like, okay, only here can I see stuff like this. So that happened. So then I start walking over to the next station that I was going to go fill up their water jug. And I see one of my buddies over there who I wasn't expecting to be over there. Or I wasn't even expecting him to be there in the first place. But I see him over there, and I'm like, hey, man, what's up, We start talking, and they're over there at the BB range. So he's like, yeah, you should totally come back, and I'll let you shoot some BBs later. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to be very good at it, but yeah, I'll come back, and I guess I'll shoot some. So start walking around some more. A couple hours go by, and I go back there, and he's like, yeah, so let's shoot some BBs. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to be very good at it, but, So, basically, in Scouts, they don't like you shooting guns, especially at people. Well, I mean, no one does, but they were using playing cards, so they had to take out all the face cards, so you could only shoot number cards. But of course, my friend had all of the face cards, so he's like, okay, well, let's use these. But I wanted to be, the smart one and shoot the information card just so I could, mess around. But some kid took the information card, and I was so mad, but whatever. So I took, I think it was a queen, and I put it over on the clothespin, and I get on one side of the range. My friend is on the other side of the range, and I load my gun, and I'm like trying to shoot it, but it wasn't working. And I look at the kid next to me who had also worked there, who I know, and I'm like, why won't it go? And he's like, oh, your safety's on. And I'm like, oh my god, I feel like an idiot right now. Okay, well, where's my safety? And he's like, oh, it's right there. But I didn't see it. Little did I know that it's this tiny, tiny, tiny little button that I couldn't make out until he physically pointed at it. So I start shooting at it, and I kept on missing it. Missing. Until they told us, okay, rifles down, go over and check them. So I get over there, and of course my card had only been hit once, I guess, by myself. There were two holes in there, and the guy next to me claimed that he had purposely shot it. And I was like, okay, whatever, I believe you, because I bet I couldn't pull that off. So anyway, my buddy on the other side of the range, he's like, so Cameron, how many did you shoot? And I'm like, oh man, I only got one. He's like, oh yeah, I already knocked mine off of the clothespin. They were holding them up on clothespins on on a metal wire. He's like, yeah, I already shot mine off. I bet I can shoot yours off too. I'm like, no, you can't. Okay. And he's like, okay, if you say so. So I'm sitting there shooting at my target, and all of a sudden my card falls down. And I'm like, I look over and I'm like, what did you do? And he's like, oh, I just shot your card off. But it was still standing up. That's the thing. It landed like in a patch of grass that kept it upright. I don't know how it happened, but it did. So I start shooting, we start shooting it again, and there's like 3 or 4 people, like 5 people including me, aiming at this card, trying to like do something to it. And someone knocks the freaking clothespin off. He literally breaks the clothespin. And in the end, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to count it right now, but there were like 6 shots on there. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to keep this because I feel bad about myself because I probably only hit one, but, if I find this in a year, I'll probably be like, oh, I hit all 6 of these. No, Cameron, I didn't. I should write a note on the back. But here's the thing about this camp. I mentioned that this is one where the camp that I run in June, all those kids attend this one. So I'm seeing all these kids that I worked with in June there, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'll be friendly, I'll say hi. So the very first kid I see is one that, I instantly remember. It's like, oh yeah, this is the kid who came up with that nickname for me, and, we were, whatever. And I look at him, and I'm like, I'm walking past him, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And he looks over at me, and he screams and runs off, and I'm just like, okay. Okay. And I see another kid who I remember, because I remember a lot of these kids. I mean, mind you, it's only been, about 4 months, but there were also certain kids that you just remember them for whatever reason. And I see another one, and I'm like, hey, I remember you. And he just kind of looks at me, and he's like, oh, yeah. And I'm just like, did I do something to you? I mean, I don't recall being mean to you. So I was walking around with my friend who I brought up there, and I'm like, okay, next person who I try to go talk to, I want you to stop me, because this is clearly just making me look like an idiot. This is making me look bad. So while I'm over at that BB range, I had a kid come up to me, and he's like, I remember you from somewhere. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was day camp. And he's like, oh yeah. And then he remembers me, and then there's like 10 other kids over there. And then whenever I said that, they're like, oh, you were that person, blah blah blah. And then everyone starts crowding around over me, and they're all talking to me, and I'm just like, oh, okay, here we go. And I'm talking to them, doing whatever, and my friend pulls out his phone and starts playing Pokemon Go, and then they all decide that I'm not interesting anymore, and that they wanted to see my friend playing Pokemon Go. So it's at that point where I'm like, okay, I think it's time for lunch. Let's head into town. So we head into town, and we get some Jack in the Box. We go over to the Walmart across the street. It was one guy's birthday, and I promised another guy who was going to help me out with the ceremony, I'd promised him I'd get him ice cream. So I'm like, okay, well, let's go over and get some ice cream and Gatorade. So we go over, and we get ourselves some Gatorade, and we're looking for some ice cream, and we find Girl Scout cookie ice cream. So we're like, oh, this is perfect. And it was Thin Mint ice cream too. It's like, yeah, it was good. I bought one for myself, and I'm just like, yeah, I gotta mess with these guys. I gotta give them one. So we got them their ice cream, and we drive back to camp, and and I find one person who I was going to give the ice cream to. Mind you, it's like a 10-minute drive, and it was really, really hot, so ice cream was melting fast. So I'm driving back, And I find one person who I promised ice cream to. I went over and I gave it to him. But I couldn't find the other person who I promised ice cream. So I asked around and they're like, oh yeah, he went over to this place. So I run over there. I feel the ice cream melting in my hand. And he wasn't over there. So I head all the way back over there. Only to find him over there. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to give this to someone else. And it turns out it was someone else's birthday. So I gave it to them. Because, yeah. And I'm just like, you know what? You don't deserve ice cream because you made me walk all over. And he's like, yeah, I actually didn't need ice cream because my dad got cookies and brownies for us all. And I'm like, oh, sweet, where's mine? And he's like, we ate them all. Okay, fine. You know what? You want to play that way? Fine. We'll do that then. We'll do that. So anyway, I start walking back over. There's this big dining hall. That's where I was doing the talk earlier. And there's like probably 30 or 40 picnic tables in there. So I sit down and we're just sitting there. And all of a sudden my buddy looks over and he looks down on the ground and he's like, ooh, what's that? And I look over and there's this big spider just sitting there, moving around, just slowly walking around. And this spider had to been the size of 3/4, like if you put the 3/4 in a triangle shape, it had to have been that wide. Like it wasn't like a little tiny spider. It's like, I don't like spiders. I understand that I'm a scout and I'll be outside, and I'm not necessarily like, I've had a worse experience with spiders, but that's just like, yeah, no, thank you very much. I think we're gonna go now. But the other person who was gonna do the ceremony with me said, hey, I just got here. Where do you want to meet? And I said, fine. Yeah, I mean, I think he knows his way around this place. Go ahead and meet me back here. So we're sitting there next to the spider, and he comes walking back there, and so we start heading off, and we're gonna go practice our ceremony that we were gonna do that night. So we want to gather everyone up. So we head over to camp, and we find our one person that we needed to get. And we head over, and somehow between camp and this place we were going to perform it at, one of them decided to walk off. So we had to go back and find them so that we could actually perform. How long is this video? 23:53. Okay. Yeah. I think we're going to cut this up into 2 segments. Yeah. So, if you want to hear the rest of the story, go watch part 2. And, yeah, so let's go ahead and end it here. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe right down here. It's a magical red button that says you are now subscribed to Saf-T-Liner C2. Make sure you comment up here, down here, over here, or over here. I don't know where they put it, down here where they put it. Make sure you also give this video a thumbs up, or that big spider's going to be next to you. And make sure you also share this video with a friend. Show it to your mom, show it to your dad, show it to a guy on a random street. I don't care, don't get raped. So yeah guys, that is pretty much it, and thanks for watching.